to visit. It is now 4:02 on my clock. We do still seem to see people coming into the webinar. I'd like to get started, and I wanted to welcome everybody to this University of Southern Maine and Federal Aviation Administration webinar that is being hosted today, and it's on the state of drones and unmanned aircraft systems. And we do have folks from all over the state of Maine dialed in today. I will have this posted. We are recording today's webinar. I'll get it out on the Maine Robotics website, and I'll also put it out on our Facebook page for anybody who wants it. I want to thank our presenters today. We have both Diana Robinson, who's a project specialist, and also Alina George, who's a project specialist from the Unmanned Aircraft Systems Integration Office. And they've been great. We've been working on getting this webinar together for a little while, and they were very patient when we had to postpone it once. If he joins us, we'll also see Ed Cormier, who is from Maine, and he is part of the STEM Aviation and Space Education group through the FAA, and we'll be glad if Ed can join us as well. So having said all of that, I did want to just point out, if you have questions, if you can put them down in the Q&A, that it manages better than if you try to post them into the chat. However, what we would like you to put in the chat would be who you are you in school, are you a teacher, are you a parent, from the professional community, an aviator, anything like that. You just want to shoot that into the chat, then we'll have an idea of who we're talking to. That'd be great. Now, Alina, Diana, who's going first?
Oh, Alina should have her mic.
I will share.
There we go.
All right. And what are some of the answers that have come in from the chat?
We have an 11-year-old, a mechanical engineer at USM, an 8-year-old.
Oh, okay, great.
10-year-old.
Wonderful.
USM staff. Oh, they're coming in now. We have a beekeeper. We have 5th and 7th graders who love drones. Another USM staffer.
This is amazing. What a wide breadth that you have here. All right, well, with all of that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Alina. I am a project specialist, as we were talking about earlier. I work at the FAA. I've only been here for about 2 years, but it is the happiest that I have ever been working. And I have a passion for education and for UAS. And our goal in our department here, the UAS Integration Office, is to integrate drones safely into the national airspace. So the national airspace is basically, it goes from the top of the blade of grass throughout all of the sky. And all of that is national airspace. So everywhere where planes fly, helicopters, and drones, UAS. There we go. And Diana?
Hello, everyone. We're so happy that you're here with us today. And thank you, Tom, for inviting us to tell you all about unmanned aircraft systems. I have been with the FAA a little over a year. Prior to coming here, though, I was in local government where I was fortunate to get my Part 107, which is the remote pilot certification, and implemented a UAS program. And we were doing inspections of buildings, windows, vegetation, and you'll see a few of those uses later in the presentation. But I agree with Alina. One thing about the safe integration of drones into national airspace is all about educating everyone. So again, thanks for having us today.
Those are our fun pictures. All right. So Diana?
Yeah, we were hoping that Ed would join us today. He is actually the New England STEM AVSED, that's our acronym for Aviation and Space Education for the New England area. And he has been working with us, and we invite him to just about everything that we do, because it's so important that we really get the, make sure that this education is not only at collegiate level, but we want to make sure that from elementary, middle school, high school level, that you all have an understanding of what this world of drones and UAS is all about. So if Ed joins us, we'll stop and let him come in and say hello, but he is your STEM AVSED rep for that area. So what is a drone? You think toy, but it's really not a toy. In fact, some people get a little bit upset when we use the term toy, but it could be a hobby. It could be that hobby that you enjoy doing. But what we always try to help everyone understand, and as Alina said earlier, you're in national airspace, so you have to be very cognizant of what's going on around you. Most all drones need to be registered. A lot of times when you buy, from whatever little local department store, you maybe don't realize that. And there are some instances where you don't have to register, but I always encourage to check, because more than likely you need to register. So on this picture was a little bit of fun, because it's talking about really fragile, easily broken. Now, I know that from experience. The first time I got out with my drone, I think I hit a fence at a ballpark about 20 times. Thank goodness I didn't break it. But and then with a lot of the quadcopters, there are replacement parts, but some of the more inexpensive ones, I won't say cheap, maybe not easy to replace. So they're fragile, but I always would tell people that I worked with when they were training, don't be afraid of it, though. If it were to hit something, they really are not that fragile, and they should be able to take a little bit.
Yeah, they're pretty resilient. I know the first time I ever flew a drone, I almost crashed it into a pond. So back in those days, they were difficult to control. Not so much anymore. I've definitely cut the heads off of some of my plants, though, in my apartment.
At least plants and not somebody, right?
And not people. All right. So there are many different kinds of drones. So a quadcopter might be the one that you're most familiar with. It's got four different propellers, thus quad. There are also fixed wing drones. So fixed wing drones often look like airplanes, smaller, could be, that big. But they're still a drone, and they're like I said, many different kinds. The important part here is that there is not a person in them. So nobody is in them flying them. They are being operated remotely. So you've got a remote somewhere else that's not in the vehicle. So there are a couple of other terms that we use. UAV is unmanned aerial vehicle. And so this is used pretty interchangeably with UAS, but the important part about this is that it's just the vehicle, just the thing that's going to be flying. So a UAS is the unmanned aircraft system. So that's the whole system, not just the drone, but also the communications that are going back and forth, the controller, all of that is included in UAS.
What we don't want you to do, if you saw the Spider-Man movie, I think it was the latest one, Mysterio.
Far From Home?
Yeah, and he tricked Spidey, and I just was watching it, and then this big swarm, and we call it a swarm when you have multiple drones, they were attack drones. So we don't promote that. We promote the safe use of drones into national airspace, but I thought this was a fun picture.
Absolutely. And so talking about technology in general, there are so many ways to use technology. And just like anything else, UAS is a new technology. So a lot of what we have to do is get people familiar with it, right? Back in the day, there were not personal computers. You would not have a computer on your phone, right? You couldn't connect to the internet. I remember when I was growing up, internet cost extra on your cell phone. But these days, everybody, has easy access to the internet, or most people have easy access to the internet. That's how we're doing schooling through pandemic. So just getting people familiar with this technology, the UAS, UAV, drones, that's a huge, important first step.
We've actually had drones around for a long time, not so much for personal use like now, but drones have been a big part of the military for years. This is a picture of a Predator, which I think it's named well because it looks like a big scary bug-like thing, but they have been using it to keep us safe. They do surveillance, gathering intelligence. I've got to see and be up close to a Predator on more than one occasion, but what we're kind of focusing on is more what we call the UAS, which is the smaller UAS that weighing less than 55 pounds is what we focus on. Now, there are plenty within our department that work with partners who use the bigger drones. When Alina talked about fixed wing, those that look like an airplane and how they're used throughout, which we'll tell you about next.
And this is actually a good example of fixed wing UAS. The wings are not going to move. They're just right there. No propellers. So let's talk a little bit about going from a novice, a beginner, to a professional. Drones are often a hobby for a lot of people. They use them because it's fun, because they like using FPV, which is first person view, where you can put on some goggles so that you are seeing the world as if you were the drone, as if you were in the air flying around. And it's really, really amazing. So you can stay with that as a hobby forever. And it's a pretty good one. But you can also use it in professions. You can use it as civil engineers, for example. If you're going to inspect a bridge, you can use it in the energy industry. If you need to inspect power lines or grids, we are working with railway companies, they are using UAS to inspect their trains, to inspect their tracks, make sure that there's nothing there, that everything is in working order. There is a lot of use, and we'll get to that a little bit more, but there are just so many opportunities for what you can do with drones that you don't need to be limited. It's really limited by what you can think of. Maybe, you can take this hobby and become a drone racing pilot.
Start line green. Start line is green. Goggles down, doors up. Ready to red. Fire your drone, please.
This is DRL, the Drone Racing League.
That's an incredible break. Vanover's going for it.
Vanover jet neck and neck.
Blade to blade. What an amazing finish.
DRL combines live sporting events with custom drone technology to create the sport of the future. In just 4 years, DRL has held 38 global events across 22 cities in 6 countries, turning cultural landmarks, museums, palaces, stadiums, and arenas into real-life video games. The world's best pilots compete for the title of DRL World Champion. DRL events blur the line between sports and entertainment. High-speed racing is augmented by professional commentary and live pit crew action. DRL's proprietary video game flight simulator esports platform lets fans learn how to fly and race, even compete to become a pilot in the next DRL season. At its core, DRL is a technology company. DRL designs and builds every piece of technology from the ground up. They're patented, proven, and world record setting. Our approach, combining real-life, world-class racing with technology innovation and best-in-class content production, lets fans and brands watch, play, and engage with DRL year-round. Welcome to the sport of the future.
So DRL is one of the companies that the FAA works with a fair amount. And they do exactly that. They race drones. This is, as they said in the video, really the sport of the future. Part of the really cool thing they're doing is using simulators as a teaching tool for drone flight. And if you're interested, of course, you can go to their website and find out more. But they are doing a lot of work in STEM these days. And we're very excited that they are one of the companies that we're working with.
Yeah, when I see that video, it really makes me want to be a drone racer. And I probably need to upload their simulator. They made the come up proprietary, so I know I'd have to purchase the license. But speaking of DRL, they actually have been focusing on education and STEM. So if you have a minute, go take a look at their site. There may be some interesting things there for you to gather up. The FAA also has every week is called Drone Safety Week. And I know this past year we had a lot of really cool interactive games and things that you can do. So you can keep an eye on that as well. So we got Buzzy here. Buzzy's kind of our mascot. We call him Buzzy the drone. The FAA is all about safety. And so whether you're flying as a hobbyist or as a career, if you were to choose that, there are a variety of rules that you will need to know, and they will change up dependent on whether you're that hobbyist and or that a remote certified pilot, which we call Part 107. I'd already mentioned registering your drone. Always make sure your package, a lot of the packages have on there to come to our site and to register the drone. There may be some sort of a safety or certification test. When I mentioned Part 107, that means that I can fly as a business to make money. And that's the big difference between the hobbyist and those that are having it as a career. And I don't do that now. Now I'm kind of behind the scenes, making sure that everybody else is doing what they should. But a few rules that kind of stand out in mine is that you need to keep it under 400 feet. You want to stay more than 5 miles away from an airport. We have this term that we use called visual line of sight. You want to make sure that your drone is always visible, and then not over people. We've had some recent rule changes, but that's still an important rule to know, because if you think about it, if you lose connection or you don't fly very well, which I was guilty of that, it's best not to be around a lot of people when you're doing that.
Absolutely. And this is actually what we were talking about earlier. You can use drones for inspections. Utility companies will inspect power poles, wind turbines, solar panels. Some of this is already happening. So check with your provider. Maybe they're already doing this. A really important thing that drones do is improve worker safety. So this is, again, like Diana said, what we're all about. Safety is the most important thing to the FAA, keeping people safe in the air and on the ground. So part of that is, of course, making sure that you're not flying over people just in case anything happens and you can't control the drone anymore and it falls on somebody. But also we're looking out for the safety of workers. There are a lot of jobs that are dangerous that having a drone do instead would make much safer. Something else that you can use a drone for, which is really, really incredible, is photography. Film and photography using drones has really taken off in the last 4 or 5 years. The photos that you can get are truly incredible because you will be seeing things from a bird's eye view that otherwise you would have had to rent out a helicopter, pay for the fuel, pay for the pilot, pay for the actual helicopter. It can be very expensive. And drones are making things so much more accessible, especially for photography, even for film. There are a lot of shots that you'll see in film that are helicopter shots, right? If you've got a landscape, a beach or something, and you'll have a helicopter fly over to get that shot, now you can just use a drone to get it. And so it saves a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, the reduction in operational costs for like your local government, if they're doing, I made the comment, that's where I had come from, which I worked for a county, maybe some of your parents or you do that. And so you always want to be very, conscious of taxpayers' money. And so the reduction in operational costs is huge. And we actually saw that happen when I was there. But one of the more, I think, really interesting, and you hear the term precision farming, looking at crops, where exactly is there maybe the vegetation, there could be some sort of pest or insect infestation, maybe irrigation needs a little bit of work, and the traditional way was just to go out and look and try to find it. And now the farming industry is growing widely with the use of drones because it helps them to see the crops, which can go on for miles, look at fence lines if they have cattle or any other type of farm animal, herd location. We had the dogs that would shepherd. Now we have drones that maybe would help out there too. So just give that some thought. Another thing, and actually this is our probably biggest customer, is emergency management, public safety, law enforcement. And because when you stop and think about just how can drones help in that, track and fight fires. If there's a lot of wildfires in the area and you're trying to find areas, they have thermal cameras that if you're flying high enough, you may be able to spot where there could be a flare up. We've got other examples of search and rescue and just damage assessment. For in Florida, they have a lot of hurricanes, and so after the storm, then they can go out and do damage assessment first with the drones just to see what they need to get into certain areas and to maybe find people. So a lot of great uses for drones, and it's very big in public safety. In fact, a lot of schools, since we have those on staff from USM here today, there's a lot of opportunities to work with local sheriff's department or city police to do training with them and encourage them to get into this great industry.
And continuing education is a big avenue for UAS. Speaking of search and rescue, you can actually use the cameras on a drone to help find people and also dogs.
I saw this post on Reddit last night of a missing dog. Happened to be a white golden. I'm realizing that she might be easy to see from the air if we find her before snow.
This is the view from his drone. He's just using his normal camera and looking for spots of white that are moving because it's a white golden. Seems like he's found something here.
All right, I was able to get a visual on Meadow from the air. Pretty sure I'm going to be trespassing, but it looks like she is stuck. She had a leash on and the snow melted enough to be able to see her from the air. I did a few passes. There you are, girl. I got you. Hi, baby. Hi. You're going home. Come here, baby. Come here. It's okay. Yeah. 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 Oh, it's a good girl. Come here, baby. Come here. Yeah. Hi. Hi. Oh, this is. Hey. Here. Come here. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing how people talk.
There she is. Hey, baby. I want you to see your girl. And then I'll show you some more of the stuff from.
Why did you hook her up before we do that?
Meadow, look who's here.
Meadow.
But yeah, it seems like you can often use drones for good. And, you know, to add on to what Diana was saying about schools, a lot of what you can train in is using different kinds of cameras on your drones, using thermal cameras, using other mapping techniques, GIS, to really utilize drones.
And Alina, you know, this slide here, you say drones used for good, but they're here for good. I don't believe they're going to go away at all. If anything, it just continues to grow.
Absolutely. They're not going away. They do a lot of good things. They reduce costs. They make jobs easier and less dangerous. And they really make aviation accessible for everybody.
To give you an idea, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can take 20.
To give you an idea, this is actually a drone market report. It was saying, you know, how many different businesses were in the drone market, and that's 2015. When Alina advances to the next, it shows you just how much growth. So this is the same report, but in 2019, and then it's even grown more since then. But that's just, to me, a really good visual of just how much it is growing.
Absolutely. There's no stopping it. And that growth seems, frankly, exponential. So let's talk a little bit and bring this back to schools for a minute. Diane and I are co-administrators of this program, the UAS CTI. So we launched this on April 30th, 2020. That was last year. And this program came about because of the rapid growth of UAS, the rapid growth of the industry. And we realized that we needed a way to make sure that drones were going to be integrated into the NAS safely, as is the mission of the FAA. Excuse me. Also, this was a requirement from Congress. And they wanted to make sure that we were educating the next generation on what we could do with drones. So there are actually 73 schools that are now part of the program. And the photos on the screen right now are actually University of Maine students.
Yeah, and as a result of this program, we have set up a repository outside of the FAA. In fact, it's the National Center for Autonomous Technologies. And at the end of this, I'll put links to the CTI program, or maybe Alina can do that right this minute, for entering the program and the requirements of the program. We are not a funded program, but we've already met a few times. We've got these recorded webinars on on that, in that repository where you can go and take a look and see. We have events scheduled where we're going to be talking about some student interaction. We've had some interns that have given us support for the program, building an Esri story map. It's not ready yet, but it's getting close. And so a lot of really good things have come up as a result of this. We have like 135 that have requested to participate. So out of that number, the 73 schools now have what we call a memorandum of understanding in place, but the others are trying to achieve that as well and be part of the program.
And just to follow up on that, there is no deadline for applying to this. So this program is specifically for higher education, so 2-year, 4-year technical colleges. But if you are part of one, not just Southern Maine, then absolutely you can apply anytime. So we've got rolling admissions. All right. What's next? Looking forward, the future. So I'm going to play the video for you first, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so urban air mobility, not just urban air mobility, actually, advanced air mobility is truly the next step in what is going to happen in the future. Being able to call a car to take you to a vertiport, which is a vertical airport, be able to take an electric flying vehicle to a different vertiport across the city, to take an Uber home. That's what we're looking at here. And this is going to be a really cool time in our history where science fiction is not just the future anymore. It's going to be the present. And we're really excited about it. Speaking of the future, I don't know if anybody you watched this when it happened last week. Does anybody want to guess where this is? Take a look at that chat. Yes.
Awesome. Yes. Mars.
Yep, that is Mars. And what just happened is that was the first drone on Mars. Diana?
So they've been referring to it as a helicopter, and we've been taking that a little personally because it's like, no, it's unmanned air. It's a drone, but so cool. Is it coming up, Alina?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I just played it.
Oh, I missed it. It was just that quick little video. Sorry
Yeah.
about that. I actually trying to answer a few questions too as we go along. And I'm not sure, right at the very end, we'll ask Tom how much time we have that maybe we can answer. I've been trying to catch a few, but some great questions coming in.
I love this GIF. This is from the Olympics in 2018. And all those lights in the sky, what could those possibly be? Turns out all of those are drones, every single light point that you see there. And they are all networked together. They all have programming that tells them exactly where to fly, and they are flying back and forth as those wings. But all of those are drones. And I think it's pretty
they do. I think they do. Like, I don't know if it's nightly or weekly, but a show at Disney. And when you're in fire-prone areas, what a great idea to use drones. Again, they call it a swarm when they put them together, and they plan out the program all like click of a button, and then they take off. It's incredible to watch that. But you like I said, if you're in a dry area, then you reduce that fire risk factor.
much better than fireworks, I think.
Yeah, but that's
right.
You know,
we will take questions now. I'm going to head and stop the share. Oh, actually, before we take questions, here's Ed. And he can talk to you a little bit about AVS AVSED.
Good afternoon, friends. Thank you so much. Apologize for being a few minutes late, taking care of some pieces. But for all the folks that are here, my name is Ed Cormier, and I am the Aviation, Space, and Education Coordinator for the New England region. So my office is based out of Burlington, Massachusetts, but I serve the 6 New England states. And I am your full-time FAA contact for STEM Outreach. And I'll post the contact information in the chat. So my focus is K-12 schools, scouting organizations, youth organizations, wherever the students are, that's where we kind of want to be, because they are the workforce of tomorrow. So how do we get them into those CT programs? How do we get them on the college path to come to USM for their fantastic program they have there? So I'm here to help out educators. I've done a lot of work with Portland School System, with Cindy Sewell, the Teacher of the Year, local scout organizations, the Scouting Merit Badge. So again, I'm here for the FAA, and we're dedicated to getting students into that aerospace career timeframe.
All right. Thank you so much, Ed.
I have to admit, a couple of the questions, what do you say, stump the instructors or the ones that are presenting, because I'm not 100% sure. Did they use drones for Google Earth? I know that they have flown what they call LiDAR, which is kind of sort of similar, but it's usually an actual, like a plane that is how they would capture for Google Earth. As far as I know. Ed, you are welcome to jump in if you know the answer to that, given your background. And then the Mars drone, was it registered? I love that. They said only kidding, but yeah.
Asking the important questions here.
I'm not sure it was flying over US airspace.
Right.
Also true.
And then I know the helicopter, the Mars helicopter, was Ingenuity, but Perseverance, I don't know if that was the name of the company. Again,
Perseverance wasn't that a different Mars Explorer?
May have been.
This one? No, maybe Ingenuity is the helicopter, and Perseverance is the
main rover. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yay for who knew that answer.
I'm putting a couple of links into the chat. First link is the FAA page on UAS. The second link is the FAA page on the UAS CTI. The third link is our repository for the UAS CTI. I feel like there were other things that I needed to link and I don't remember. But Tom, are there any questions for us? You are muted, Tom.
I'm going to weigh in on Google Earth. My guess is they probably did not, given the height limitations of what drones are allowed to use. If you're trying to map out entire communities, you'd probably be better off with a higher altitude satellite. I know they use satellite images, and they do use aerial images. But with the quality of some of the cameras that Google uses, they have access to a number of gigapixel camera systems, which, one picture and you've just covered Seattle, and well, I forget how many, billions of pixels they can now do in one picture. I've seen images from them, and I'm assuming that's what Google uses. But from 400 feet, you can only see a small area, at least to fill in for the Google Earth.
There was actually a question, and I know Diana answered it within the Q&A about flying near people. So I think what she said is correct. Be courteous, just be a kind human, let them know what's happening. Other things that we often tell, for example, realtors who are using drones is to mark yourself clearly that you're flying the drone. We often say to have a brightly colored vest. You can find construction vests or things like that and just have drone pilot on it. I think there has to be somebody who's making these at this point. But that way people will see a vest that's brightly colored and be like, oh, that's official. And then they'll give you a wide berth.
I think with being courteous too is be ready to, be kind, and because people are curious and they may want to come over and see your drone or drones. And, if you're in the middle of an operation, a mission, then you probably want them to stand away. But when you've brought the drone in, tell them a little bit about what you're doing. I think that's always a good thing, unless they're just like crazy people, then you might not want to. But truly, that's how I've always done. And also to be concerned about not only people, but like environment. If you're near a park or preserve that maybe they would let you fly, it's always good to just ask, is there anything I need to be cautious of? If there's some, like an eagle's nest, that was something that we ran into. And so it's good to just get in touch with the people, whether it's the park personnel, we need to fly over here, or facility people, then, just be kind and courteous.
Absolutely. And to that point, there are definitely places, like Diana was saying earlier, that you cannot fly. There is a really great app that you can use for it. It's called Before You Fly, like literally B4, the number U, the letter fly, all three of the letters. But you can find it for iPhone, for Android. You can also use it on your desktop computer if you are planning out a flight. If there's something specific that you want to see or an area that you want to go to, and it'll tell you if you can fly there, if you can't. For example, I live in DC. I can't fly my drone outside at all. So I just fly it in my apartment.
She brought up what someone had asked, where do you live? And I'm not far from the DC area. I'm in Alexandria, Virginia. And yes, it's kind of sad because we're pretty much a no drone zone in this entire area, because there's multiple bases, there's airports, there's just a lot going on.
Security.
Yeah, security, right. So we don't get to fly very often.
We can drive further out. I think in Maine, you probably have a much easier time flying. Just watch out for airports, bases. Some national parks, I think you can't fly in, but you can look it up. Look up the rules for your area. What other questions? I know somebody had brought up in the Q&A RC and model aircraft.
Yes, and we do have a close relationship with what is the name of the organization, Alina? The association.
AMA.
Yeah, AMA.
Mm-hmm.
They do have to follow a lot of the same rules as SUAS. There are areas though, FRIAs, which are FRIA.
Yes.
Is it federal?
FAA wait, hang on.
Basically, it's a place where you can go and fly and you don't have to worry
FAA
about.
recognized identification areas.
That's it. Yes.
I got it.
Federal FAA recognized. Yeah, so those are located throughout the country, and you can go and you don't have to worry about a lot of the rules that you would if you're not at that location.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had a question for you. How many registered drones are there?
Ooh, great question. I actually just did a presentation on this yesterday. It's a little bit over 840,000 registered drones
In the US?
in the US. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and how many?
And those are just the registered drones.
Right. And when things happen, we find like at a big sporting event, when they're in violation, they're usually not registered.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the term remote ID will help alleviate a lot of that. We're going to be able to know if something is done incorrectly, where that drone is and who it belongs to. That's a little further out though.
Yeah.
And do we know how many people in the US are drone pilots professionally, actually make money?
Great question, Diana.
I don't know the exact number. We just recently had the recurrency test go live, and we were expecting to get hundreds and hundreds, thousands. But I'm really afraid to say. But I want to.
I'm pretty sure we did get a couple thousand so far already, and that recurrent test or training rather just went live on the 6th. But
I'm thinking it's in the tens of thousands, like
yeah,
maybe 20.
I mean, part of what we're doing with the UAS CTI is actually working on figuring out job codes for professional UAS pilots, because there aren't any. Diana can tell you a little bit more about that because she's deeply involved in this.
That's been exciting, working with the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Those of you who are in academia, to justify your programs, it's good to have that data of how many jobs are out there, and that was really lacking. And this was brought up during our very first the kickoff meeting for the Collegiate Training Initiative. And as a result of that, we put a work group together. We're not too terribly far from submitting to ONET, which is part of they actually do the programming and such for Department of Labor, but we hope to be modifying some current job classifications for UAS, so that, some of you that are in attendance that are younger, by the time you get up and you're ready to start a career, we'll be able to say there are this many jobs in this field and that field, whether it's a technician, whether it's a pilot. And so that is something that we are working on now.
And to Max, who wrote in the chat about, do we have a guess as to how many unregistered drones are out there? We don't know. It's really difficult for us to guess. What we are doing is trying our best to make sure that everybody is compliant with the rules. Safety culture is really important to us. And part of being safe is responsibility for learning what the rules are about flying, as well as registering your drone. Because while accidents don't happen often, when they do happen, we want to make sure that everybody is okay, and also how to not have those accidents happen again. And actually, this leads me to a really exciting new thing that just happened this week. So if anybody is a traditional pilot, you would know that there is a form on NASA's website to submit accident reports. It's completely anonymous. They just use it to figure out risks, to see where the risks are and what kind of accidents happen. There is now a corresponding one, completely different, just for UAS. So again, completely anonymous. The FAA looks at it, but we don't have any say in it. It is NASA's NASA's form. And so they share the information with us, but just to know what kinds of accidents are happening, and some of that will inform our future regulations. So take a look at that. It is ASRA. Hang on. I'm going to find a link and I'm going to put it in the chat.
And while she's looking it up and putting it in the chat, we also have I sent out what we call just a request for research. Some of our CTI schools, we thought, well, this might be kind of fun for them as a, capstone project or a final report on hostile acts against drones. So by the end of this semester, we hope to have some information on that. Like, has someone tried to shoot down a drone or throw a rock at it or threaten the remote pilot in command? So we hope to get that report together. We've got some of that data, but it's not been tracked and really enforced, but it will continue to be, though, as time goes on. We'll see more enforcement for that.
All right, I just put the link in the chat. We've got a couple of more questions in the Q&A, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit those. Can you comment on future regulations and integration of UAS into the airspace? That's a very broad question. Integration of UAS into the airspace is going to look eventually like there's not going to be a separation between traditional aircraft and UAS. Everything is going to mix in together. As for details, we're working on them. I don't have, honestly, more than that. Remote ID is the first step into really getting integration. And a lot of what the next step is going to be is beyond visual line of sight. So flying where you can't see your drone, essentially. Remote ID was a necessary step for that. Again, safety is our #1 priority. Like that is what is truly important to us and what we want to make sure, is going to be there so that everybody on the ground, in the air, driving your car, everybody is safe.
There's another question too. Can current UAS remote pilots recertify online now? Or do we still have to go to in-person testing sites?
Great.
For that initial certification, you do have to go to the testing site. But for recertification, it is actually a training, not a test. I just did mine not that long ago. It took me about an hour and a half. They say 2 hours. I've heard a lot of people that finished it sooner, but it was good. It's at the fastsafety.gov site.
Link is in the chat.
Recurrent. And yep, she sure did. And that's the name of the course. So you want to make sure that if you're not a true manned pilot, that you're taking for non-manned. So it'll say that. It'll say recurrency test for Part 61. Is that right?
For non-61 pilots, yeah, that's correct.
Which is a pilot.
Right,
and
non-61 holders.
Ed, there's actually a question in there that says for Ed.
I saw that, but I'm not the expert on fixed wing or drone pilot operation. I'm here for the educational in the K-12 world, so I'll let Diana weigh in on that one if she has an answer for it.
Wing it.
Actually, if I may jump in.
Jump in.
So
I can actually answer a little, but go ahead.
I haven't read the full question yet, but it sounds like something for our support center. So if you didn't know, the FAA UAS team has a support center where you can ask them all of your questions. I actually just put the email into the chat. And they are SMEs. They understand this information probably better than a lot of us. They are also drone pilots themselves. So they know a lot. Let me take a look at this question. About £1.
If he is flying for himself, yeah, the $5 registration. But if he's built it, yeah, I would not be comfortable answering that one.
Yeah, neither would I. So So a couple of the things that you told your friend Ray are correct. He does have to register on FAA or on Drone Zone. It is a $5 registration fee if he is registering as a recreational pilot, which, I mean, he's building RC models, or your friend rather is building RC models. So yes. However, they do not have to pass a written test. The written test is only for Part 107 pilots right now. So yeah, that's the answer I've got for you at this moment. I would highly suggest writing into UAS help@faa.gov. They'll give you a much more detailed answer for any other questions that you may have. And as for this being overkill, again, we're just trying to keep people safe. And this is how we're doing it.
So I know we've got a few minutes left before the end. I just did want to reiterate that the FAA, the AVSED program is here to help out K-12 educators. So please feel free to reach out at that email address or check out the website. There's lots of great resources up on the website for education. Scout leaders with aviation merit badges, 4-H groups. We really want to, the STEM folks are here as a resource, and we're here to help you out. Guest speakers for classrooms, career days. I was just a judge for the Maine State Science Fair, so we're trying to get FAA employees out involved in the community in those great STEM profiles.
And University of Southern Maine and Maine Robotics would like to thank Alina and Diana and Ed for joining us today and taking an hour in your afternoon on Thursday to, be here with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Sorry, I wanted to jump in with one more thing, which is the AVS STEM Career Symposium that is happening on April 29th. This is geared towards middle and high school students. So you can register, you can send it to your schools to get you registered, get everybody registered. You can send it to your children's schools if you have children. But we talk about what we do at the FAA. They can explore all the different parts of the FAA, not just UAS. We obviously do a lot with traditional aircraft. But I think it's a great way to get your feet wet if you're interested in perhaps getting into an aviation career.
And the best part, it's free.
It's free, no cost.
It's free, and it's April 29th, next week.
So another Thursday, if you've got one.
Well, thank you to all the attendees who came today. And if you have questions, I know we've shared a number of different ways to reach us, but by all means, send us questions. Who knows, perhaps we'll be able to do another one of these in the future. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, friends.
Yeah.